Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited to have this individual on. He and I have just recently connected, but he's got a lot on his plate, and I'm really excited to dive into all of it. But my good friend Jeremy Hill has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Mr. Ward, thank you. How are you? Good morning.
Doing well, man. Uh, I'm excited about this because you do have I like to say you're juggling a lot of things in the air right now with your different businesses and different things that you got going on. But what I love about it, I think that's cool. And this is part of the reason why I did my podcast, started my podcast over 5 years ago. But you're doing all those things, but you're also, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, you're also a very involved dad and very dedicated to your family. And we had talked a little bit about before I started recording with you that, my journey as far as the podcast goes. And one of the things that I have been known for and good at my entire life, or at least for my kids' sake, is being involved in their lives.
Mhm.
I've been to, I've coached every single one of their teams all the way up through high school. I've been to parent teacher conferences, field trips. I mean, all those open houses, all those different kinds of things that you can think of that kids were involved in. I was there birthday parties. I mean, just everything. And when my younger son, my older son was in college at the time, when my younger son was a senior in high school, it flashed before my eyes that he was about to graduate high school, go off to college, and move out. Both my boys would be gone. My wife and I, which I was looking forward to, would be empty nesters. But at the same time, I was like, "Oh dear God, now what?"
Yeah.
What in the world am I going to do? Because this is all I've known. What I've known is being a dad. Now, I've said it many a times on the show, many a times on my social media, your dad journey never ends. But I felt like my dad journey was ending. I felt like my wife and I had raised two good men. They're going to go off and do their thing, live their lives, and my role as a dad was over. And I got to a point where I was like there's a hole in my heart. Like I was almost depressed. I had a lot of anxiety over it. And the funny thing is, we were talking about, Ed. The funny thing is, I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, brother, I need to talk to you. I've got some stuff on my mind I want to get your opinion about." And I went over to his place when he was living in Laguna. I went over to his place and we were sitting there chatting. And he goes, "Bryan, I've always known you to be such a phenomenal dad." He goes, "Why don't you help other dads?" He's like, "Why don't you do a podcast and just inspire other dads? And you can have guys on that are successful dads and talking about their journeys." And I went, "All right, I'll give it some thought." I didn't know much about podcasts and had listened to a few, but didn't know a whole lot. I came home, I said, "Hey, your brother," told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, your brother said I should start a podcast for fathers." And she goes, "Oh my God, that's brilliant." And that's how it started. I'm like, "All
That's
right." So I had one of my best buds on as my very first guest, and next thing I know, a year later, I'm on CNN and getting publications and having celebrities on and pro athletes and entrepreneurs and pastors and author. I mean, just everybody. And what I love about this journey, Jeremy, and then I'll let you talk because I'm talking the whole time. What I love about this journey is just the fact that I get to hear other individuals and their journeys, and I've had moms on my show too, but just the fact I get to hear other individuals and their journeys of being a parent, and it makes me makes me feel alive again as far as dad goes, and so I love it. So, anyways, that's my quick journey in a nutshell, and
love it.
the reason why I went down this rabbit hole of my story is just because of how involved you are as a dad, and so. Without further ado, let's dive right in. For you, let's hear a little bit more about your backstory because I don't know a whole lot about your backstory, but let's hear a little bit more about it, kind of how you grew up and how you got into this, what you're doing now, and then
Yeah,
obviously what we were just talking about being a dad. I want to hear about your family as well.
sure. I mean, I think so. First, thanks for the intro and the compliment and some color on your story is extraordinary. And I remember Ed telling the story about when it is that he was trying to get into podcasts, and he says, "Well, how do I get my voice into the box, and how do I get the box under the right?" Like, and so this whole journey of everybody just kind of figuring things out, the thing it is that you feel like it is that you're called for to do, is an ongoing process and an ongoing journey, regardless of what it is that that is for everybody. And so I certainly applaud you
Oh, thanks.
for diving into the deep end of this thing and making a big dent, making a difference, and all those kinds of things. So I think that's
Appreciate it.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
Um, I think for me, when it is that you ask, tell me something about you, I think most people's natural inclination it is when they say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. The first thing it is that they say is, well, this is what I do for work.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that should necessarily define who it is that you are as a persona, but you spend so much time, and most people have so much of their identity tied to what it is that they show up and do, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, or 7 days a week, whatever that is that's the natural inclination from an answer. I don't know if that's necessarily who it is that I am, but that is what it is that I do. And so what it is that I do is I have a company called JB Capital. It is that I started almost 25 years ago, independent investment bank. And so we are and had been for years and years and years, basically a hired gun to go solve problems for growing companies. And those companies could be, software technology, healthcare businesses, construction companies, banks, investment companies, otherwise. And the majority of those problems had something to do with money, right? Somebody was trying to figure out a way to get their next product to market or buy out their partner or pay off their ex-wife or open a new
Right.
office or do whatever it is. And their bank and their rich uncle won't call them back. And now you're stuck talking to me,
Right.
right? And so we got really, really good at kind of turning all the dials of the Rubik's Cube it is to help those companies avail alternative sources of capital, differentiated sources of capital, something that wasn't bank of wherever your neighborhood is type money. And
Hmm.
so whether that money was wealthy individuals, whether it was RAs or family offices or wealth managers or private funds or overseas, investment it is that was coming in to help you go to point B, whatever that is. We got really, really good at that. And so over this period of time, we've done a little bit better than $2 billion in transactions and advisory work. We started a couple of funds of our own, which was my balance sheet, and then raising funds alongside that about 5 years ago. Have learned a ton over 25 years in dealing with people and raising money and managing personalities and figuring a whole bunch of shit out. And have done some really cool stuff. We've been punched in the gut a bunch and learned a bunch there, and that's been a wonderful, interesting journey. From the good parts about me that are actually interesting. I'm married. I have 3 kids. My wife and I have our 29th wedding anniversary coming
Oh,
up
that's
here in a
awesome.
couple of months. I've been together a little bit better than 30 years, almost 31 years. We've got She's fucking super hot, by the way. Just radical. And I've got 3 awesome kids and a pretty cool dog. And we moved to Paradise Valley, Arizona from Seattle about 2 years ago. And I am not sick of the sunshine and the blue skies and the palm trees. It's pretty cool.
Well, let's just let me back up for 1 second though. I mean, going from Seattle to Paradise Valley in Arizona, that's a major jump. You're not just talking about a little leap from, state to state. You're talking about a major jump, not only in the move, but also the climate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so we had friends down here for years, right? And
yeah,
so one of the things that is that we've found living in Seattle for a long period of time is that the only way that you can live happily in Seattle is if you leave 4 or 5 times a year. Because right, like that just
right,
gray and rain and just blah all the time. Like, dude, it just makes you want to run with scissors. Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it
I get
wears
that.
on you. And so you've got to have those little bits of sunshine or little points of reprieve it is, or otherwise you just lose your mind. And so we'd go to California or Hawaii or the Caribbean or Arizona or one place or another it is to just go get some of that sunshine, to just go get some of that healing. And I think one of the things that is that we realize is you don't understand when you're in the middle of it how good that vitamin D is for your soul.
Right,
Like I think somebody should do a study on your family's happiness quotient relative to the amount of vitamin D you get. Because
right,
even if you have a crappy day, but the sun's shining, it's not so bad.
right.
Leave the sun shining, right?
That's actually true. That is actually true, folks.
Telling
If you could start off your day with a great day, if you go out in the morning and walk outside and just sit out there and just breathe and let the sun just kind of sit on your skin for a few minutes. I mean, just doing that a couple minutes a day, every single day, it actually does. In fact, it's proven that it does change your mood. So,
100% agree. 100% agree. And
um,
so we were there. I had been coming down here. We had had a couple of companies that we had invested in down here. And so I was back and forth down here, every 6 or 8 weeks for a few years. My eldest son, who was going to school in Washington, decided to transfer his junior year. He was playing ball at the time in the Northwest, decided to come down here and he wanted to just go ahead and get his grown up on, right? Like, my body hurts. I'm ready to just go ahead. I know I'm going to go to business school, applied to a bunch of business schools, decided to go to Cary here at ASU, which has a great program.
mhm.
And so he was down here. So my wife and I started coming back and forth a little bit more. Then my daughter, when she graduated high school, applied to a bunch of business schools, decided she was going to go to Arizona. And so now my wife and I have two of our three kids down here. I'm down here all the time. It's sunny here. It's not Seattle with all the crazy that was going on there.
Right.
And so my wife was like, honey, maybe it's time for us to really look at Arizona. And I was like, love it, sweetheart. Sign in the yard. 7 minutes later, let's get the hell out of here. Like I was ready to go. Right. And so we ended up landing down here in the summer of 23.
Okay.
So it's almost been 2 years. Um, and candidly, it's been a breath of fresh air, I think, for us as a family, for some for our business as well. It's a better business environment, a better tax environment. Everybody
Right.
down is working and hustling and doing great things. It's a good fitness climate. Everybody's aware of that now, and exercising, rock climbing, mountain climbing, biking at the gym, doing all these kinds of things. But two, the thing it is that we noticed is like when I'd go to the gym, like the guy in front of me holds the door. And
Right.
when I go to the grocery store, the gal in the line behind you says hi and starts talking about her day. Right. And this idea of that just being a little bit more, I don't know, kind of like it is when we grew up, right? Like people
Yeah.
say hi to each other. It
Yeah.
wasn't so weird. Like that doesn't exist in Seattle.
Yeah. It
And
doesn't
so it
exist in
became
California either.
yeah, totally, bro. Right. And so it became really refreshing to see that as more of a part of our daily life because that's how it is that our family acts. Like we talk and we're friends with everybody. But we
Hmm.
got down here, enjoyed that. We found an incredible church. And so, as close as our family has always been, we've even become closer being down here. And even though two of the three kids are out of the house, like everybody meets for church on Sunday, everybody comes to the house, or we go out for brunch every Sunday. And it's been great fellowship time. Like the move has been wonderful. It really
Mm,
has.
that's awesome. Now, how old are your kids? Because I know you got two boys and a daughter. Beautiful
Yep.
kids, by the way. And how old are
Thank
they? What
God
are
for my
they?
wife. Yeah, right. Bringing up the average, brother. Yeah. So we've got yeah, boy, girl, boy. And so my eldest son, at the time, at today, anyways, we've got 23, 20, and 17. And so
Okay.
here in the next 60 to 90 days, they all have birthdays. So our kids are born April, May, June,
Oh,
all
wow.
at 3 years apart. So we only have sex every 3 years, right? So that's that works, just whatever, it's fine,
Right.
right? So
Right.
but yeah, they're all about to be 24, 21, and 17, boy, girl, boy. And they're just we get everybody thinks their kids are good looking. Most of you are lying. They're not. But my kids, my kids are
You,
pretty
you
exceptional.
got
They really are.
good looking kids. You got good
They
looking
really
kids. Your
are.
daughter's beautiful. Yeah, you
She's
got
an awesome.
yeah. That's awesome. Now you said your son played ball. What did he play? What sport did he
So
play?
we're a soccer family. So he
Okay.
played soccer in Washington State and was looking at a bunch of schools. Ended up at Whitworth, which is over in Spokane.
Okay.
Played soccer, was a goalkeeper. Played soccer for them for a number of years, and enjoyed that. But you just get to a point, I mean, Ed talks about this too, is that just, dude, my ears hurt, my
Right.
teeth, like every part of my body when I wake
Right.
up every day hurts. And you don't realize as a NCAA athlete, it's a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Like
No,
you're
I
there to
know.
play first and school second, right?
Yeah.
Like and that it's pretty demanding. And I think it is that, he had a couple of issues. It is that, the coach it is that recruited him there that he wanted to be a part of, within showing up within the first 6 months, that coach took another job and a new coach came in.
Oh,
And
wow.
so when new
Yeah.
coach dynamics like that work, they want to build their team with their players. And so
Mm.
the kids that were recruited by the other coach are kind of now persona non grata. It was just a shit show.
Right.
And so, and just candidly, from the team standpoint and the university standpoint, there were some misgivings in leadership across it is that we started recognizing the longer that he's there. And he's like, I think it's time to just move on to this next chapter and let's just go ahead and move towards business school and let's go start looking at and evaluating those. And so he made a decision to come down here. It was the best decision for him. He crushed it down here at Cary, and is now working here in Arizona for a private equity group it is that owns a bunch of multifamily. And so he's doing well there. And my
Cool.
daughter's in business school as well, and she's making her way. She's in her sophomore year and doing well and kicking butt and trying to figure out how she's going to make a dent and all those kinds of things.
That's cool. Yeah, the reason I asked my both my boys, they played all different kinds of sports growing up, and
Yeah.
then, essentially gravitated in high school. My younger son played a little bit of baseball in high school for a couple
Mhm.
years, but then they both just really stuck with basketball, which they played their whole lives.
Yeah.
And I coached their teams in high school and all that. But my younger son got a scholarship to play basketball for Hope International University here in Southern California, and he
Nice.
played there for 2 years. And it got to the point where he was the same way. It's like he had no life
Yeah.
because every time he wasn't in a classroom, he was either in the basketball court, on the basketball court in the gym, or he was in the gym working out with the team. And it would go till late in the evening. Like practices ran until late in the evening, and then he had to get up the next morning and go to class the next day. And
Yep.
and he got to a point where he was just burned out. And he's like, Dad, look,
Yeah.
I love playing basketball, but I'm over this school thing with basketball. I'm burned out. I have no free time. I just want to finish my college degree and be done. He said, I have no interest in pursuing basketball after college. Like there's nothing, like I have no interest in doing any of that. So I just want to play back. I just want to go to
Yeah.
school. That's all I want to do. I don't want to play anymore. And I said, okay, well, that's great, but you have a scholarship. And if you still don't play basketball, that scholarship goes away. So that means your school, we got to figure out a different school because we can't afford that school. And
Yep.
he ended up transferring over to where my older son went, Grand Canyon University in Arizona.
Yeah,
So
sure.
they both went to Grand Canyon and got their degrees there, their business degrees there. And yeah, my younger son came back and he works for a company that does actually. They look for high school athletes that want to go to college and play a sport, and they put packages together for them basically.
Yeah.
And so he works for a company doing that because his degree is in sports. So he works for that company doing that, and he's 100%
Exciting.
100% remote. And then, as I said, my older son works for Charles Schwab in Arizona and doing that sort of thing. So, but yeah, he was the same way, just like your son. It's like, I'm over it. I just want to get my degree and be done. I'm burned out. I'm tired. I'm hurting. I'm sore all the time. I get it. I get it. And yeah, I never want to, I always wanted to push my boys to do the best they could and do everything that they could and achieve everything that they could. But I'm also not going to have them, burn out and,
Yeah.
just more depressed or anxious over the stuff that they're doing. So,
Yeah.
awesome. Now your kids, are they looking to get into business with dad or no?
Yeah. And so the idea is yes. And so, but we have standards and kind of a plan for how our business works, right? And so I have no problem with nepotism, right? Like totally cool for us. We should get a sign in our house, right? But for us, the kind of the plan really for our children is we don't. I'm not mandating, dictating, or instructing my kids. It is that hey, you have to go to business school and you got to get this degree and you got to do this and you got to do this. Doesn't I don't care. Doesn't matter. Like I want you to do what it is that you're interested in, what it is that you're compelled with, and something it is that makes sense. And so the path it is that so far my son and my daughter have chosen, and the path it is that my younger son will do. The thought here is that whatever you decided is that you want to study, whether it's business or marketing or underwater basket weaving or whatever it is, get out. If you decide to go to college, you don't have to, but if you decide to go to college, I want you to study, hard, get out of school, graduate, and you graduate at 22 or 23 or whenever it is that you graduate. And I want you to spend that kind of 22 to 28 to maybe 30, and I want you to work as hard as you can, make as much money as you can, make as many connections as you can. I want you to have as many experiences as you can, and I want you to say yes. If you go to work for ABC company, whatever it is in Phoenix, and you're kicking butt and they're doing well, and they say, "Hey, you know what? Guess what, Bryan? We're going to open an office in Nashville, and would you be interested in going out and helping them start it?" Yes, you do. Yes, say yes, big boy. Say yes. Go collect that experience. Go get that little poker chip there, right?
Hmm.
Go do that. And if they open an office in New York, or you get recruited by somebody else for that period of time, for this next kind of 5 or 6 or 7 years, I want you to learn as much as you can and make as much money as you can and have these experiences. And by the time it is that you are 27, 28, 29, whatever it is years old, I want you to take all of that time, all of that money, all of those experience, all of that collection, everything it is that you've learned there. And I want you to come back to the family and say, "Hey, Dad, here's where it is that we're at. Here's what it is that I've met. Here's the kind of money it is that I've got kind of done and set aside, whatever it is." And I think it is that I see an opportunity for us to do something in build to rent, in Section 8 housing, in XYZ marketing, in tobacco farming in Colombia, like whatever.
Hmm.
Figure out what it is that that is. Come back to me. I will fund it and you will run it. Ultimately, why would I want my kids going to work for somebody else for the next 30 years?
Right.
Like, I don't want them coming directly out of college, it is, and coming straight back to work for me, because I want them to have a perspective and a voice it is outside of the echo chamber it is that our family lives in. Because there's value to that, because something that they're going to learn from Bryan or
Absolutely.
otherwise it is, they need to go do that. They need to not just work for dad. They need to have a shitty boss. They need
Right.
to have an employee, and the guy next to him, it is that you're like, God, Joe's such a jerk. Like, I can't
Right.
stand this. You need to
It's
have that.
it's
You
those
need that
experiences.
perspective.
Yeah.
Then bring that back to the family, and then we will grow something and you will run it. One of the things it is for us that we want to do is, so, Christine and I, my wife and I, and our three kids, I want everything it is that I do on a daily basis, and what it is that we invest in, the relationships and the communication and the experience it is that we have, everything it is that I do should benefit, uplift, and breathe life into Christine, into Joshua, into Kaylin, into Tristan. And Joshua, when he's working, his work, his effort, his money, his success should actually benefit his brother and his sister and his mother and I. And same thing for all of them. Because if now the five of us as a team together are kind of growing up, lifting up, and accelerating with each other,
Hmm.
what kind of bigger dent it is can our family make on each other and the people that is around us if we do that, rather than Joshua works for this company and Kaylin works for this company and Tristan lives over here and so lives over there. No, dude, I don't want that. I want us to be a unit together.
Hmm.
Right. And so that's kind of the thought process for our family. So ultimately, yes, the idea is that all of the kids will come back into the business. We have that expectation for their spouses as well. That's it, dude. You're not going to marry somebody and he's going to work for Amazon up the street. You can
Right.
do that for 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, but ultimately take that and you come back, and everything it is that we do together, like it or not, right?
Yeah.
So that's for us kind of how it is that we've been thinking towards things.
Well, let me ask you this. What if they say no? What if they say, you know what? I fell in love with the company that I'm working for now, and I really don't have a desire to come back, Dad. Is that all right?
I'd say you're out of the family.
All
Just kidding. I wouldn't do, no, I'm just kidding.
right, and that concludes this
And
episode.
that concludes today's episode, right? No, I mean, you can't, I can't push them into it, but I can pull them into it.
Yeah.
And I think the things it is that we've done for us as a family is that we've created um, that kinship and relationship for our children, that they want to be with us.
Yeah. I get
They
that.
they they want to hang out with us. Like, they want to be involved. They want to make a difference. They want to do something it is that makes them proud of their last name.
Mhm.
If there is a time it is that one of my kids says, hey, Dad, I do want to come back to the family. I'm really in the rhythm right now. Well, I'm the dad. I want the best for them. I'm not, of course, I want what's best for them. But ultimately, I mean, the dream is that our family is together.
Yeah.
And I think if I do, maybe a good enough job, or continue to kind of create that kinship and relationship and love and intimacy with us as a family, is that regardless of how it is that they're getting filled in job A, or kudos in a parking spot in a rubber tree plant in a company car, it's still not your family's business,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah, and I see that. I see that in you. I mean, that dream of yours obviously is that legacy that you're leaving behind, and not only within the home, and you're talking a lot about it, legacy in the home, but also that legacy outside the home with this business
mhm,
that you established this business, I think, with the long-term vision of your family, your extended family continuing to run the company or continuing to run the business and carry it on. And I'm a big proponent of legacy. I'm a big proponent of, the legacy starts within the home. Everything else around it is icing on the cake. But your legacy right now, obviously, is your kids and your wife, and that's important to you. And you see them being a part of the company outside of the home, the business outside of the home for the long term. If it gets to a point where they're, 30 years old, 31 years old, and they say, Dad, give me a few more years to see if I love what I'm doing right now. I want to take a few more years, then, so be it. But eventually, that they're going to want to come back because they're, something in life's going to hit them on the chin and they're going to go, you know what? maybe working for dad or maybe working in the family business isn't so bad after all. But they have to have those experiences, like you said. I think it's super
Yeah,
important.
I mean, it's that all of that is those experiences give you perspective, right?
Hmm.
Without that, you are less wise than you should be,
Right.
right?
They're valuable lessons in all
Yeah,
the experiences, whether good
yep,
or bad, whether
yep,
they have a great boss or a crappy boss. So those are all good experiences to go through and to grow from, to teach them valuable lessons in life. It's one of the things that, I instilled in my boys growing up. It's like even in their childhood years when they're going through school and they're having an issue with a teacher or something, or a coach, I always encourage them, listen, before I get involved, you need to handle it. And
yeah,
you need to go to that person, whether it's a teacher or another coach, you need to go to that person and ask for a conversation. Be respectful. Don't be a little snot. Be
yeah,
respectful and tell them how you're feeling and ask them for their feedback and let them tell you. And if it comes to a point where you're still not happy and they're still not happy and there's still a like this, you guys are still headbutting,
mhm,
then I can look at possibly getting involved. But until
yeah,
then, you need to handle it because this
yeah,
is part of growing up. This is part of handling your business. This is part of handling, like you said earlier, handling your shit. I mean, this
yep,
is what it is. So that's one thing that I really pushed on my boys, and they didn't always like it. Trust me, they didn't always like it. They thought I was the bad guy by telling them to do it. But trust me, they look back now and they go,
yeah.
"I'm glad that I did had to do those things because
And
there's things that they
the-
go through now that it's
it's amazing as your kids get older, their parents get smarter, you know?
right." Right. Isn't that fact? Isn't that
Totally.
facts?
Weird.
Yeah. So
Right.
my wife makes snide comments, especially my older son, every once in a while. She's like, "Oh, so we weren't wrong after all, were we? So
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not so dumb after all, are we?"
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, when you think about fatherhood,
Mm.
it's an important part of your life. It's an important part of your journey. It's a part of your story that you don't ever want to lose. What does fatherhood mean to Jeremy? If you were to explain it to somebody else who maybe is not a dad, what does fatherhood mean to you?
Damn, brother. That's a big question. Um, and I don't know if I can articulate well the answer. I think, you know, we've talked before about parents, mothers, and fathers. It is that you're either a product of your environment and you look at how it is that you grew up as either an example of what it is that you wanted to do and continue to emulate,
Hmm.
um, example of what not to do. I think more people have found that their growing up was an example of what it is that they didn't want. And so I think that this generation of men and fathers have maybe gone a little bit too far the opposite direction.
Hmm.
But I think it is for me. I had a decent dad. I had a dad that was a good man and kind of a shitty dad.
Hmm.
It if there were three good choices and one mediocre or less than good choice, he would figure out a way to, find the wrong thing to do and just couldn't
Hmm.
get out of his own way. And so a lot of that for me kind of shaped the fact of what it is that I didn't want. Let's look at that and do the exact opposite. And so similar to you, as my kids were growing up, were pretty involved and coached the teams and did all these kinds of things and felt it is that maybe being super involved, over involved there was what it is that I should do. And I think it is that there's something good to that um, to a degree.
Hmm.
But I think ultimately, for me, the things it is that I've realized is that my my role or my goal as a father is to be a protector, provider, an example for my family, and I can do that without being at every baseball game or soccer game,
Hmm.
and maybe them understanding sometimes that you do have to miss a game is okay because dads have responsibilities, right? Um, I think for me, the things it is that I wanted to do is make sure it is that I am setting an example and growing up good men. I want my kids it is to grow up and have a backbone people can see from the front.
Hmm.
I want to emulate with the relationship it is that I have with my wife, what the expectation of a husband should be for my daughter.
Perfect.
Um, and I want to make sure it is that my boys see that as well about what it is that their expectation should be as a husband and a father and as well. And beyond every meeting that I have today and all of the bullshit that I have to do that I really don't care that pretends to be important, it's really not. Those are the things it is that weigh on me and feel a force of weight and gravity to make sure it is that every day I'm showing up and being an example it is that they would want to emulate.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I think as a father is that I want to do those things. So as my kids get older and they begin to get married and start their own families, is that every family doesn't have to start from zero. Is that
Right.
I'm leaving my children with something it is that they can start where I end off. So by the time it is that they're my age, they're even a supercharged version of me. Right.
Hmm.
Let's cascade that kind of um, increase in standards it is over time that they're better men than I am by the time they're my age.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
a excellent answer. I think you articulated it very well. And going back to what you were saying earlier in that we as dads we get a lot of our experiences through our own personal experience. Growing up with our own father, the experience of seeing others around us that are dads, and maybe friends of ours who have had kids, and we witnessing them being dads. Those are kind
Mm.
of our experiences, and we have to take what we can from all three of those and kind of learn our own way. And for me, similar to yours, I had a great dad. He was a loving dad, but he was very hard on me. He was almost too hard, to a point where there were many a times where I resented him. And I have a good relationship with him. I don't have a great relationship with him, but I have a good relationship with him. I know he loves me. I love him. I still talk to, hell, I was just talking to him yesterday. I still talk to him all the time. But it's one of those things where I knew some of the things that he did as a dad, I was not going to do with my family. I can count on one hand how many things my parents actually came to that I did. And I was a very involved kid in everything. I played all kinds of different sports, from soccer to baseball to swim to wrestling to water polo. And they never went to, parent teacher conferences. They never went to open houses. And the sporting events, the games that I did have, there were many of times, Jeremy, where I had to get a ride from my friends' parents because my own parents didn't want to go or couldn't go. And that frustrated me. That upset me because it was like, I get to go and play in this sport, and I look up in the stands and my parents aren't there. I'm looking up at the stands at other parents. And I will say this, for any parent out there that has a child that's maybe playing in sports, when that child is out on that court, or that child is out on that field or in that pool playing in that game, when they look up in the stands, they don't care about any of those other people up there. They could care less about any of those other people. They're looking for somebody who's watching them.
Yeah.
And that somebody could be you, could be your wife, could be a family member, because maybe you can't go. Like Jeremy has a very busy schedule. He can't be there, but his wife can be there. Or if they can't be there because they're out of town, maybe a relative or a close friend can be there to watch their kids play. So those kinds of things is what's important to your kids. And I was not going to allow my kids to grow up without that experience.
Mm.
So that's why the experiences that my dad he taught me those lessons. I think that's why I was
Yeah.
the way I am today. So no, that's excellent what you said. And so going back to that though, and let's dive a little bit deeper into that question. So here you are, you're very busy, you have a lot on your plate, you got a very busy schedule. Your kids are growing up. How did you balance that time between family and business? Because yes, you're trying to grow a business. You're trying to build this legacy for your family. You're trying to put food on the table and a roof over their head and clothes on their back, all those sorts of things as a dad. How did you balance that time, Jeremy?
You want poorly. I mean, the reality is that I did a shitty job for a long time. Um, I stayed late when I shouldn't have because I
Okay.
felt guilty. not to. I took meetings that I shouldn't have. I flew out and did trips to fly across the country. I've flown across the country, I don't know how many times for meetings and gotten no-showed.
Hmm.
Um, just on and on and on, right? And so how did I do it? I did it poorly. And, I think I've been talking about this lately. It is with a few guys is that, you have to understand it is that as a dad, you're going to mess up and you're going to have
Right.
regrets. And there's going to be a ball game it is that you missed, or a crossword that you had with your kid, or you said something or did something it is that, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I feel bad about that, that your kids have probably forgotten that 10 years later, 15 years later, I still remember and it hurts my heart.
Hmm.
And the reality is that you need to give yourself a little bit of grace, because I
Hmm.
would imagine everybody it is that's listening to this is conscious about their dad game
Yep.
and trying to be better. Um, the reality is even the best dads mess up. And
Yep.
I think brother Kobe missed a few shots here and there, right? So did MJ. And so for you and me to have I've heard this before, is that, excellence is a standard, but grace is the word, right? Like I want to hold myself to a standard it is of performing, doing well, and being great at being a dad. But I got to understand it is that one guy was perfect and it wasn't me.
That's right.
And so it's okay when it is that I mess up. So I think over time, just as in anything, experience teaches you things. And started to get better over time about the fact it is that, being an entrepreneur, I can control my schedule, or at least have more control or influence over my schedule and the demands on my schedule. And so if I needed to move a meeting from 4 o'clock to 7:30 that night so I could be at a 5 o'clock game for my kids, or do something just to show up to make sure that they know that I'm there, I could do that. And when I realized it is that there was power in saying no, power in prioritizing myself, my family, and my kids, you start to realize that on the other end of the phone, or the other end of your email, or the other side of that meeting, when you stand up and have standards, and again go back to that point to where you have a backbone that people can see from the front, people respect your time more. And so
Hmm.
even if I do have to talk to you at 7:30 instead of 4:30 because I went to my kid's baseball game, I can talk to you at 7:30, and now you're understanding it is that, okay, this guy's time is important and he's giving it to me at 7:30 at night.
Right.
The other thing too is that, for those demands for business owners, entrepreneurs, and guys it is that are trying to make a dent, there is a power in saying no, and you need to learn how to say no without giving excuses.
Hmm.
Hey, dude, buddy, I'm sorry, I can't make it at this because I've got a kid's baseball game. The because is none of your fucking business. The
Right.
because is because I have another commitment that's important to me, and it's more important than me doing whatever it is that I'm doing to you, right? With you.
Right.
So there is power in that no there. It took me a long time to learn that. I'm, pretty good looking, but evidently not that smart, ask my wife. Um, but working through that with her and working through that with my kids over time, I've definitely gotten extraordinarily good at that. But the way that you get good at those things is candidly failing over time. And
Yeah.
so I failed enough to now get to the point to where it is that I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think yeah, you said it beautifully earlier in that we can't be perfect dads. There's only one perfect father, and it certainly isn't us. And I have made my fair share of mistakes, and even as my boys are 26 and 23, I still make mistakes, and I
Yeah.
still have to go, look, dude, I messed up. I shouldn't have said that, or I came across the wrong way. And all I can ask for is your forgiveness. And I apologize, let you know that I will do everything in my power. I can't say it'll never happen again, but I will do everything in my power to prevent it from happening again. So I will learn from it and move forward. And usually I get that now because they're older, they're adults, they're older. They're like, Dad, it's whatever. It's no big deal. It's all good. So I
Yeah.
get that kind of feedback now. So
Well,
um,
that's important. We say that, you say that rather not flippantly, but like, well, that's just normal.
right.
But but for the dads it is that are our age, how many times when you were a kid or an adolescent or a teenager did your dad come to you and say, dude, Bryan, I'm sorry, but dude, never, brother.
Never.
Like, no.
My way or the
No,
highway.
no,
That was his
totally.
words.
Yeah, but and it's not that maybe they didn't have regret or or ill feelings about, I shouldn't have done that, but you didn't communicate that. And
Hmm.
so there is something here. It is that there is power in that acknowledgement of a misstep or a mishap with your kids when you pull your kid aside and say, "Hey, brother, I could have done that better.
Right.
Here's what was going on. Here's why I reacted that way. Here's what I was seeing it is with you. If I'm off somewhere, tell me. But sorry, brother, I could have done that better."
Hmm.
Right? There is there's a human aspect of that. It is that allows your children, it allows my kids to see me as more than dad, to see me as Jeremy. And
Right.
when you can move to that point, it is with your children, it is to where I don't only see Joshua and Tristan and Kaylin as my children, but I see them as individuals and they can do the same thing with me. That
Hmm.
dad game and relationship it is that you have with your children changes dramatically.
For sure.
We have unlocked that over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been extraordinary.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one thing to be, hey, look, there's going to be times as parents where we're absolutely not in the wrong. Our kids might think we were wrong at something that we did, but we're absolutely not in the wrong. We know that level. We know where that threshold is. And sometimes as a parent, you do have to hold your ground in an area. It could be something as simple as, hey, your kid's about to run out in the street and you freaking scream your bloody head off, telling him to get his ass back on the sidewalk,
Mhm.
and he didn't like the way you yelled at him. Well, you know what? I had to get your attention. I had to kind of scare you a little bit to get your butt back on the sidewalk. So I'm not apologizing for how I acted there. I needed to rescue you from possibly getting killed, for
Yeah.
crying out loud, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a silly example, but that's kind of what I mean. But then there's those other sides where, yeah, it took a long time, Jeremy. I'm a Marine. It took a long time for me to learn to go to my boys and go, dude, I messed up. My wife would have to smack me upside the head and go, dude, you shouldn't have reacted that way. You talked to him the way that you did is not right, and you need to go apologize. You need to go talk to your kid before he hates you, right? I mean, before he starts not liking you anymore. And I had to learn that. My wife would be like, "I'm leaving the room. You go talk to your son. You have to
Mhm.
handle this because you messed up. Your son didn't. You did." And
Yeah.
yeah, my son might have made a mistake, but I took it farther by either meeting or exceeding his level of mistake. So
Yeah.
I had to learn that. And I still, like I said, I still do it to this day. I will screw up all the time and it drives me nuts, but I do it. I still do it. It is what it is. I have to learn from it and move on. And my boys understand that. And it's taught them some valuable lessons too, because they've come to me and done the same exact thing. My sons have both said, you know what, Dad? I shouldn't have responded that way. I'm sorry. Um, I didn't mean to, and I won't let it happen again. And I'm the same way with them. It's like, hey, it's all good, dude. I get it. It's all cool. So,
Yeah.
well, good stuff, man. Really enjoyed this conversation, Jeremy. I feel like we could talk for a whole nother hour, but I really enjoyed it. If my viewers, listeners wanted to look you up, learn a little bit more about your family, all those sorts of things, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah. I mean, so it's Jeremy B as in boy, Jeremy B Hill. Pretty easy to find across any social channels. Look up the company. The company's JB Capital. You'll look us up on social. It's thejeremybhill.com. Pretty easy and something it is we can do, help out or contribute to. Love to.
Cool. Yeah, he's very active on social media, and I will say this for someone who is very tight in his business and very proud of his company. He also shares a lot of his personal side with his family and stuff like that, the activities they do together and all those sorts of things. So there's a lot of pictures on there of his family. So he's very open with his world, with his life. So he's very active on social media. So if you want to reach out to him, you have a question, whether it's family related or business related, send him a DM. I'm sure he'll respond. If you send him a weird DM, he might not respond to that, but a regular DM might be okay. But anyways, Jeremy, man, it's been a great pleasure getting to know you. I'm excited to continue our friendship. And you know what? Since my son lives in Arizona, the next time we're out there, I'm gonna have to hit you up so we
That'd
can
be awesome.
break some bread together and get to know each other a little bit more. But
That sounds
thanks.
great. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Listen, guys, it's been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend Jeremy Hill for being on the show again. Make sure you guys check out his company, his social media. Make sure you give him a follow. All those are in the show notes below. All of the links there are in the show notes below. So make sure you do that. And if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, dad up.